Alright. Let's get started with the second case of the Great Ace Attorney. Game.
Standing here in the bright sunshine, looking out over the vast ocean. Those days in London seem like a dream. But I do miss my time in England's vast capital. You know, he's flourished into a truly wonderful lawyer. I've no doubt that at this very moment, he's fighting some noble cause in court. Forgive me for taking so long to come to visit you. My life has been such a whirlwind since I returned. And no one could have predicted what has happened. Just 2 months after arriving home.
Wait, Giselle's bed's back?
I'm here today to ask something of you. Tomorrow, I shall be standing in court. For the only time in my life. As a lawyer.
Oh.
So please, I ask for your guidance. Kazuma-sama.
Okay, well, I kind of thought that was her father's grave, but I guess not. I'm honestly not sure where this is going to go. 13th of August, 826. Supreme Court of Judicature Defendants Antechamber. Here I am again after 9 months. The Supreme Court of Judicature of Japan. I'm just so nervous. I must steel my nerves and find a way to compose myself. Oh, good, you're here. It doesn't do for a lawyer to be late. Yes, good morning, sir. I hardly recognize you. You got a fine figure, counsel. But you look as white as a sheet. Those white eyes aren't going to do you any favors either. Oh dear. The truth is, I'm so incredibly nervous. I feel utterly nauseated. I almost wish I'd never been born. Goodness, not the sort of thing a father hopes to hear from his daughter, I must say. Eugene Mikotoba, professor of medicine at Imperial Yumi University. A man who earlier in his life traveled to Great Britain to study the latest advances in forensic medical science. And of course, my brilliant father. Excuse me. Would I be correct in thinking that you're to be my lawyer in court today? Oh, yes. Yes, that's right, miss. Well, I want to thank you for agreeing to represent me. I swear on my life. It's a complete fabrication, the whole thing.
Is the girl gonna be an attorney?
Maybe for this one case.
Oh, I want her for the attorney.
Ri Bambi? Born the same year as I am, my greatest friend. Though unusual for a woman in our time, she works at the University Research Laboratory helping my father. And sadly, she's a defendant in today's trial, accused of committing a truly awful murder. Are you feeling alright? Since we started talking, you seem, well, to have become a little flushed. Hi, it's just that you look so gallant and dashing. Sorry. And when I fall under your intense gaze, it makes me feel rather bashful. Goodness, I don't think she knows. She hasn't realized who I am. It would seem our little plan for this trial is going to work. What do you mean, Professor Mikotoba? Even your best friend can't see the disguise. I think we can relax. Disguise? Yes, I never tried dressing this way before, of course, so I wasn't sure how convincing it would be. But this does make me feel a little relieved, as you say, Father. Father? What? Is that you, Susato? Sorry I didn't say anything sooner, Ray. It's just that... No, what are you doing? What's going on? What? That varsity uniform, the varsity cap, the varsity cape, that varsity badge. Look at you. You look for all the world just like a student of Imperial Yumi University, a male student. I'm so glad you think so. It means all my preparations have been worthwhile. I woke at 4 in the morning to make a start. I don't understand. Why are you dressed like that? Well, you see, it was the only way. The only way she'd be permitted into the Supreme Court to take on your defense in this trial. My defense? Never before in my life have I felt so frustrated having been born in this body. Courts in Japan are barred to women, not even allowed to set foot inside the courtroom, despite the fact the laws of the land apply to all people, male and female alike. But women are forbidden. Just for today, I'll be leaving my true self at the courtroom door, so that I can act as your lawyer. Oh, Susato, you could have such lengths for me? Of course, you're my greatest friend. I'm just worried that I shan't be the lawyer you deserve. No, I have complete faith in you. Ray? It's so strange, though. I mean, you're such an accomplished judicial assistant already, and yet just because you're a woman... What a wretched reason. I mean, why shouldn't you be allowed in court? You're so gallant and dashing. Ray, please don't look at me like that, with those flushed cheeks and doting eyes. Oh, I'm sorry. It's just... You really do look so dashing. Yes, you mentioned that once or twice. You should be pleased. It means you look convincing as a man. I am pleased. I think it certainly helped to bolster my confidence today. Ray, you've managed to put on a brave face in all of this, but I can see through it. I've noticed how your shoulders are slumped and how you're trembling ever so slightly. Susato, you do believe me, don't you? I didn't do it. I couldn't have. I mean, murder? Of course, you have nothing to worry about. Your conscience is perfectly clean. Isn't that right? Yes it is. Perfectly clean. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind about your innocence, which is why I'll stand by you until the bitter end in this trial. Whatever happens, I'll always be on your side. Because that's what it means to be a defense lawyer. It means so much to me, Susato. Defendant, counsel, court is about to begin. Proceed to the courtroom at once. You should go in at once, Ray. If you're late, the judge won't hesitate to pronounce you guilty. Stand aside. I don't think I've ever seen her run so fast. Well, Susato, you've certainly surprised your father, going to such lengths to be admitted into the courtroom, and with no prior experience of being a lawyer. There was simply no other way. That's all there is to it. But Father, you haven't told her, have you? I mean, I'm right in assuming that Ray doesn't know how it came to this. Yes, quite right. I've kept that information from her. It would only worry her if she found out there's no other lawyer who would agree to take her case. I didn't want to burden her with that. Is it true? The reason why every other lawyer is refusing to take the case? Is it really because of who the victim was? We should be making a move now, too. As you know, law isn't my field, but I'll do what I can to support my student. Thank you, Father. I'm Susato Mikitoba, a judicial assistant. 8 months ago, I accompanied a student of law on a study trip to Great Britain. But 2 months ago, due to unforeseen circumstances, I found myself back in Japan. How many times have I wished that he were here? Still, I have no choice now but to steel myself for the trial ahead. Wish me luck, Naruhara-san. 13th of August, 9 a.m. Supreme Court of Judicature, Courtroom 1. Oh, we're facing off against him again? Fuck. Court is now in session to hear the trial of Ray Minbabi. The prosecution is fully ready to proceed, Your Excellency. Defense counsel, are you ready? That outfit kills the whole point of what is supposed to be going on here. Okay, I gotta change something. Hold up. Okay, hold up. It does kind of take away from the whole, oh, you're supposed to be hiding that you're a woman thing in that outfit. So we might need to go back to the title for a second. Hold up.
I'm a man.
Let's turn that off for a second, just to... Okay, that looks a little bit... Ready. Yes, counsel. According to your registration details, your name is, Ryotaro Norahodo, is that correct? Yes. Sorry? Yes, I had to come up with a suitable male name for you for this little adventure, so I'm afraid to say I simply put down the first name that sprang to mind. Well, counsel? Yes, that's right. That's me. Yes, I'm Ryotaro. He who has vowed to uphold the pride of the great Norahodo clan. It seems Ryotaro may need to consider how better to uphold his manly act first and not overdo it. And those wild eyes aren't doing you any favors either. Just relax and listen. Norahodo? Fresh face in this courtroom, if I'm not mistaken. But the name Norahodo, that perchance be... You may be thinking of Ryunosuke Norahodo, currently in Britain as part of a study program that is, his cousin. That's right. Ryotaro here has been studying in the provinces and was called to the capital for this trial. I assure you, in the matters of law, his knowledge rivals that of any Tokyo preeminent lawyers. Any of them. What a pitiful situation. I've been rejected by every lawyer in the capital. The accused has been called a country boy. How dare you? Susato is every bit as gallant and dashing as any of your Tokyo lawyers. I won't have you making fun of her. Her? Oh, please be careful, Ray. What unrefined tomboy we have here. But I wonder, is your gallant and dashing lawyer up to the challenge of defending you? His wide, skittish eyes very much suggest that he is not. I'm so nervous. Now that I'm standing in the shoes, I'm starting to understand what Naruhodo goes through. Like it or not, my eyes are want to flint. The case to be heard on this day is a matter of great significance to our national interest. In fact, it would be reasonable to assume that our outcome of this trial may well affect the very future of our empire. Just like the trial 9 months ago. And yet for proceedings of such importance, we have this unknown yokel by the dock. Dear me. Perhaps this would be an appropriate moment for me to assess the defense, to determine whether you're sufficiently competent to practice in the courtroom. 9 months ago, when a certain other Naruhodo stood where you're standing now, the same judge tested him as well. And even though he was just a student at the time, not even of law, he passed the test with flying colors. For a trained and experienced judicial assistant like you, this will be easy. Oh, counsel, do you consent to answering some simple questions? Alright, it's time to prove myself. Yes, Your Excellency. Please do make them simple. Very well. To start with, you will state the name of the victim. Phew, that is simple. I couldn't forget it if I tried. What's the matter? Now that I'm standing in his shoes, I'm starting to understand something else Naruhodo goes through. Like it or not, minds are wont to blank. That's surprising, really. It's your first time in the position and in that guise. Even a bright spark like you is bound to flicker and falter a little under the circumstances. Oh dear, this is a dismal failure. Don't fret. You need only use the knowledge you've gained as a judicial assistant to overcome the problem. Of course, the court record. Yes, the answer will be amongst all the key information about the case in the court record. That's right, just use E to open up the court record. Then you'll need to flip to the People section with E. Don't take too long over it. His Excellency is watching you closely. Alright, check the court record with E. That's where the information okay, I'm waiting, counsel. What is the name of the victim in this case? Okay, so what do we have here? Giselle Brett, female British, time of death is the 11th of August around 2 p.m. Ascertained by examination and witness statements. Cause of death, a single deep stab wound from behind, piercing a lung and resulting in fatal hemorrhage. Death would be occurred within minutes. Notes, extreme meiosis, pupil constriction was observed in the victims in both eyes. Okay. What do we have? We got Eugene Mikitoba, which is our father. Best friend who works as an assistant with my father in the laboratory. She's the defendant in this case. Giselle Brett, victim of a case from a former British exchange student. 9 months ago, she was found guilty of the murder of visiting Professor Dr. John Wilson. And then, okay, so obviously we're gonna go ahead and go, Giselle Brett. I'm kind of curious why she's back. The name of the victim who lost her life in this case is Miss Giselle Brett. Giselle Brett. A name that will never be forgotten in the courtrooms of our country, I'm sure. Correct. And being a member of our empire's judiciary, you'll be well aware of the significance of that name. So, let me pose another simple question. As you know, Miss Brett was a visiting student from the Empire of Great Britain. Why, then, is her name indelibly associated with her own empire's judicial history? Obviously, you won't have forgotten that case from 9 months ago. But if it's proving hard to recall the finer points, everything you need is included in the court record. Obviously, I still remember. That was the start of everything. Giselle Brett, behind the woman's student persona, was the face of Queen Victoria. Pillar.
Yes!
9 months ago, a visiting professor of medicine at the Imperial University was killed. And the culprit was Giselle Brett. Yes, she was a killer. At the time, our country had just signed a new treaty with the Empire of Great Britain. It was in the midst of this delicate diplomatic situation that an incident occurred. An Englishman, Dr. John H. Wilson, was shot dead. I believe he's an associate of yours, Professor Mikitoba. Yes, I was indebted to the man. He's been my mentor since I went to London to study forensic medicine. Indeed, it was I who invited him here to Japan as a visiting professor at the university. Naturally, the murder of the Englishman on our soil was a matter the government wished to resolve rapidly. Indeed it was, which is why a secret trial was conducted here at the Supreme Court. A student of the Imperial University was arrested on suspicion of murder. A second-year English language student by the name of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. With the help of his best friend, a student lawyer, the accused conducted his own defense and exposed the despicable crime committed by Miss Giselle Brett. Miss Brett eventually admitted to her crime. However, when questioned about the motive that drove her to take Dr. Wilson's life, she gave no satisfactory answer before the trial reached its conclusion. Immediately after the trial, the British government brought its consular jurisdiction into play. We were unable to sentence Miss Brett according to our imperial laws. It was decided she would be moved to Shanghai, China instead. Why Shanghai? There's a British consular court there. Correct. I oversaw the negotiations personally. The date of her transfer to Shanghai was finally set upon only last week. All that remained of our empire's obligations was to see the woman safely on board a steamship. And yet, the very day before her departure, the Englishwoman was killed. Only the day before? That will do. I'm satisfied with the counsel for the defense is sufficiently capable of representing the defendant. Oh. Thank you, Your Excellency. Over the first hurdle. Now a summary of the incident, if you please. Prosecutor Ouchie. As is your wish, Your Excellency. The repugnant crime took place on the 11th of August in broad daylight. On the outskirts of the imperial capital, under the bright blue sky at a secluded bathing spot by the sea. The incident occurred inside a small beach hut, erected by the bathers to rest and change their clothes. Why was Giselle Brett, who was in custody, allowed to be on the beach? The cause of death was a single stab wound to the posterior abdomen, which pierced the victim's lung. An injury which proved fatal. There were two persons alone together in the beach hut at the time of the victim's death. Miss Brett, in their bathing attire, and the accused, Bambi? I'm gonna butcher that name every time I say it. Accordingly, there could be no doubt of the accused's guilt, especially when we considered she had a powerful motive. The police arrived rapidly at the scene and promptly arrested the young lady. Well, that extraordinary description of events leaves me to somewhat lost for words, I must say. It's certainly true. The prosecution's summary is full of words that raise an awful lot of questions. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution's counsel what he's... Okay, first off, the powerful motive. You're clearly exaggerating. Powerful motive is a blatant overstatement. Is the yokel boy using long words he doesn't fully understand? I beg your pardon? No matter. Let us put this to the accused, shall we? Membabi-san, you are a research assistant at the Imperial Yumi University, I believe. Yes, I am. I'm working with Professor Mikotoba in his laboratory at the moment. I can confirm that. The defendant is an excellent assistant with a strong sense of responsibility. Fascinating to hear. Now another question. Prior to your work with Professor Mikotoba, whose research were you assisting then? Oh, I was studying under John H. Wilson. Dr. Wilson? The visiting English professor who was murdered by Miss Brett 9 months ago. The accused had a deep-seated respect for her former mentor, Dr. Wilson. Is that not true? Yes, Dr. Wilson was a wonderful man. Interesting. Then tell the court what deep-seated feelings you had towards the Englishwoman who killed him. Well, obviously I'm filled with hatred for what she had done. A powerful hatred. Oh, no, Ray, be careful what you're saying. The motive was revenge. Plain and simple, Your Excellency. Well, it was clearly a trap all along. How wicked of him to use Ray's undying respect for her former mentor against her like that. Let's find out more details, and something we can use to bolster our defense. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution's counsel on what he said about being alone together. Membabi-san. Yes, what is it, Naruhodo-san? I'm really starting to wish we made it my alias Ryotaro Sasato. Please tell the court why exactly you were present at the bathing spot when the victim in the first place, and why you were alone with her. Oh, well, no, that's not true. It wasn't like that at all. There were other people present. A detective who was guarding Miss Brett, for starters. I was asked to accompany Miss Brett as a companion, that's all. Let us be clear, at the moment of her death, you were alone together with the victim in the hut. You and no one else. The truth is, there's only one reason why this young woman accompanied Miss Brett on her bathing sojourn. It was the accused's last chance to take the victim's life. No, because, as we know, the following day would see Miss Brett extradited to the British authorities in Shanghai. And the accused would never have an opportunity to dispatch her again. Oh, Okay, we're already off to a really bad start. Kindly refrain from conjecture, counsel. The prosecution counsel seems to enjoy using provocative tricks like that. But for now, at least, we need to assemble more facts, trying to let him goad you. Oh dear. This is really terrifying. Father's right. We need more information. As a lawyer... Okay, so the last one was the bathing spot. I didn't think that'd be important. If I may, Prosecutor Ouchie. What do you want, you fresh-faced young yokel student? I wonder, could you explain, please? You mentioned a bathing spot. My apologies. Clearly my modernity has confused the poor country bumpkin simple's mind. Bathing spots are the very latest trend in health practices from the West. We are told that bathing in the water of the ocean is curative, therapeutic, and excellent for the skin. No, that's not what I meant. I was referring to the fact that Miss Brett had, to all intents and purposes, been found guilty of murder. Why would a known criminal have been relaxing by the sea? Yeah, this is what I asked before. What the fuck is that about? For old time's sake, I believe. Sorry? Miss Brett was to depart for Shanghai the following day. Her final wish, as it were, was to enjoy a day at our country's wonderful coast. And the British Empire put extreme pressure on the government to comply. But on what grounds would we agree to such a request? Because, as usual, our government is unable to stand up to foreign powers. In matters of diplomacy, it seems we don't even have the courage to decline the whims of a known criminal. Don't look at me, Professor. It was the government who granted permission, not I. In any case, it was decided that with the dedicated detective on duty, nothing could go wrong. But in fact, a murder took place. I said don't look down at me. It was that young student girl who did it, not I. No one has proved that yet. Wouldn't provoke the man if you don't need to. I believe we have a clear picture of the incident now. Despite her guilt being determined 9 months ago, Miss Brett managed to avoid incarceration, instead continuing her research work at the university. Obviously, over that period, she and Ray would have encountered each other on a number of occasions. Seeing the murder of the mentor for whom she had such great respect enjoying such undeserved liberty. Yes, even if it was only temporary until Miss Brett's extradition to Shanghai. You can hardly blame Ray for her feelings of anger and resentment. Poor Ray. So, Your Excellency, if you would be so kind as to peruse this exhibit, a photographic print that shows the scene of the crime immediately following the grim incident. Yes, thank you, Counsel. A tragic image. As you can clearly see, there is nowhere within the hut that anyone could have hidden. The court will accept this photographic print as evidence. As I understand it, then the victim and the defendant were alone inside the beach hut at the time. That is deeply troubling, I say. The finger of guilt points firmly at the defendant. Well, Your Excellency, naturally the prosecution has much more to its case. We intend to prove the accused's appalling actions beyond any possible contention. To that end, I can confirm that we have multiple witnesses to the crime, and the damning evidence. Okay, well, before we do anything else, let me take a look at that picture again, just to be sure. Okay. So the first question I have to ask is if she stepped from behind and fell down like this, where's the footprints that would be behind her, you know? There's like nothing... I'm confused on how that works. Like... I'm not seeing anything... Well, I guess that's maybe a footprint. But you know what I mean? It's like... She wouldn't be facing this way if stabbed from behind, if there was no signs of anyone behind her. To that end, I can confirm we have multiple witnesses to the crime and damning evidence. Witnesses? But who? One of whom, I might add, is a highly respected police detective. I assure you, the testimony of these witnesses will leave no room for doubt. Very well then, Counsel. Bring forth your witnesses. I, Takasuchi Aochi, have been waiting for this moment. Sorry? Oh yes, I haven't forgotten. A trial 9 months ago, here in this very courthouse. Well, that relevant little student boy utterly humiliated me. Yes? This is an insult to the Ouchi family name. It will never be forgotten. You become conceited with age, Council. But the one have to stand aside to make way for the new, or the old. It's the way of the world, but you never forget that. Strike the head of a samurai whose top knot has been cut, and the bell of cultural enlightenment tolls. Yes, on that fateful day, my former self died. The start of your own mini-Meiji revolution. Are you modernizing as well, Council? Silence. Since I swore vengeance back then, there has been a minor miracle atop my head. Observe the Ouchi growth. You see the seed of hope sprouting forth from the barren expanse of my crown? I think that tiny growth is trying to tell me something. I'm afraid I can't really see. Where's the hope exactly? I said silence. Today I face another yokel student from the Naruhodo clan. Well, I will vanquish you. My victory will fertilize the seed of hope atop my head. You've been warned. With that, the prosecution calls the witnesses to the stand. Looks like the stakes are high on both sides in this trial. The prosecution and defense each have much to lose. A haircut is hardly comparable to Ray's life. Witnesses, please state your names and occupations for the court. Chief Inspector Satoru Hasanaga, Imperial Police Bureau. I'm in disguise, obviously, so I can go undetected. And I am, well, the next big thing in books. The author renowned throughout the capital, in fact. Yes. Soon to be sold out. The satirical I Am a Cat, a sensational success, by Suzuki Natsumi. Who the My goodness. Struggling student from the Providence, please. You shouldn't be in awe of me. I needn't... It's only natural that you feel nervous in my presence. But all of you, please relax. Call me Suzuki, even. Yes. Why on earth is Suzuki-san doing here? Tread carefully, Susato. The author fella knows you from the time in London, doesn't he? He exposes you for who you really are. This will be over before it's begun. Yes, of course, I know. I presume Suzuki-san has not, won't have forgotten about me. I'd certainly never forget him. Although he does seem to have changed somewhat in the 6 months or so that it's been since I last saw him. As for Inspector Hosanaga, his amazing outfit is hard to believe. I have something on my face. Well, your glasses for one, although they don't seem to be helping you see. Thank goodness he hasn't recognized me either. I suppose it's a disguise, isn't it? I thought appearing here in the clothes I was wearing at the time would make for a more faithful testimony. It is my guiding principle to carry out all testimonies flawlessly. Well, I can appreciate why an Imperial Police Bureau detective might have been present, but what business does a writer such as yourself have being at the scene, Suzuki-san? Well, you see, I had been asked that day to give a lecture on the morning of the incident in the Imperial Yumi University's Grand Lecture Hall, no less. At Yumi University. After the lecture, I had a very pleasant conversation with the researcher from the Medical Science Department. The professor over there, in fact. With Professor Mikitoba. Yes, that's right. It was arranged by one of the newspapers. They wanted some story or another about 2 former students who studied in Great Britain. Of course, being a renowned author, the press never leaves me alone. They secretly spy, snap shots, scribble stories, and scupper my privacy. As you can see, the conversation was written up in this newspaper here. Read it at your leisure, my provisional struggling student friend. I have plenty of copies. Thank you very much. You practically threw that paper at me. The Suzuki Natsumi article has been entered in the court record. Okay, so let's see what that's about. Anyway, following my interview with the professor, the lady in question appeared and made a very unexpected announcement. Okay, So what do we say here? I'm okay. I'm not sure how this helps us in any way, shape, or form. I guess we'll have to see. What does the description say? Newspaper containing an article about the discussion between my father and Suzuki-san. The debate became quite spirited. The lady in question appeared and made a very unexpected announcement. I should like to go with everyone to see my country's coast. Those are her words. As I explained before, Miss Brett was never taken into custody. She continued to work in my laboratory under strict surveillance, of course. At which utterance, the university immediately contacted the government to seek guidance. And the response was, permit Miss Brett to go as long as a detective accompanies her. That detective, I am at liberty to divulge, was me, Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga. Thereby the entire party departed cordially for the seaside, it seems. I was extremely challenged to clear all the other members of the public from the vicinity of the beach. But fortunately, I'm at peak physical fitness at the moment, so I was able to carry out my duty flawlessly. Hi, Inspector, you do have something on your face now. How unsightly. I do apologize. Does that mean that you went to the beach too, Father? Oh no, fortunately I had to work to finish off, but unfortunately, of course. It means that, as my assistant, Ray was invited to take my place. Of course, being a renowned author, I didn't like to decline the invitation. But if only I had. I'd never seen such an awful sight. Relentlessly racked by remorse and regret. Very well, I must now ask you to present your formal testimony to the court. You will give an account of all that you witnessed on your impromptu excursion to the coast. Of course, Your Excellency. Relentlessly racked by remorse and regret, I am. On the day of the incident, I was ordered on a special surveillance assignment in this disguise. I just managed to catch that crab when I suddenly heard a caterwaul from behind me. I ran to the beach hut at once, where I found the pair in question. Yes, that young girl was astride the Englishwoman, dagger in hand, as she stabbed wildly. I saw blood on the blade. It proved to me that she stabbed the victim multiple times. Okay, well, we already know what that one's fucking false. Okay, well, this is gonna be easy. Indeed, it does appear the testimony that both witnesses here present saw it, the very moment of this heinous crime. What? Now, if you will recall, I promised evidence as well. What phrase did I use again? Oh yes, here it was. Damning evidence. What do you have there, Counsel? A so-called fountain pen, is it? Correct, Your Excellency. I found it at the scene whilst examining the body. It appears that in her dying moments, with their final ounce of strength, the victim clutched a piece of evidence that would positively identify her killer. What? Your Excellency, if you would cast your eyes over the photographic print of the crime scene once more. Goodness me. Yes, the victim is clearly grasping something quite deliberately there in her hand. That's right, a fountain pen. And if you would kindly examine the pen, Your Excellency. The owner's initials have been engraved into the ebonite barrel. R.M. Ray Mibani. The initials of the defendant. The fountain pen will be immediately into critical evidence. So, have I omitted anything? Decisive testimony and damning evidence. There's a bright blue sky outside the courthouse today. Perfect weather to ascribe guilt, I feel. I don't understand. The prosecutor outed you of 9 months ago. Okay, well, hold up. Can I not examine it? Okay, that's fine. Has had none of this man's poise. Counsel for the defense. You may begin your cross-examination now. Naruhodo-san. Naruhodo. That means... yes, me. Is there another Naruhodo in my courtroom? Actually, there isn't even a single Naruhodo in your courtroom. Cousin Ryotaro, pull yourself together, please. Alright, I've seen this countless times as a judicial assistant. Finding inconsistency in the witnesses' testimonies to prove that they are lying somehow. That's all there is to it. It's how a real lawyer would handle a cross-examination. So let's see what I can do. Well, we already know because the last statement said he was stabbed multiple times, but that cannot be true, as, I don't even have to press all this. Okay. With that accusatory cry that welled up from deep inside me, I think I finally understand. Every time Kazuma-sama, Naruhodo-san has stood here at this bench, the stakes have been very, very high indeed. What's the meaning of that menacing pose, counsel? I'd like the witnesses to clarify something for me. Who? What? Where? When? How? Not to you, Suzuki-san. The query is directed at Inspector Hosonaga. At me? In your statement just now, you said that the victim was stabbed multiple times. Yes, that's right. As I said when I entered the hut. The defendant was already standing over the victim, bloody knife in hand, like a murderous demon. And yet, that cannot be. What? Get to the point, please, counsel. In the post-mortem report, it clearly states that the victim was stabbed one time only. In other words, Inspector Hosanaga's testimony is clearly flawed. And Suzuki-san, me? You claim to have seen Mabami-san in those throes of stabbing the victim. Yes, I did, wildly. Both you and the inspector confirmed the same point. There was already blood on the knife that you saw the defendant holding. Yes, and... it's quite simple. We know that the murder weapon was used to stab the victim only once. Therefore, there's no way there could have been blood on that knife if that single stabbing hadn't already occurred. True. And what exactly is your contention, counsel? Are you ever going to tell us? Yes, Your Excellency. There's only one logical conclusion. What Suzuki-san saw, in fact, was not the moment of the victim stabbed the victim at all, but the moment that the defendant, in fact, withdrew the blade from the victim's body. That can't... Excellent work, Sasato. You exploded at them with that objection, and in proceeding to pull them apart systematically. Well, this takes me back. Yes, I seem to remember your cousin staged a scene much like this in the trial 9 months ago. Half-witted child with a half-baked objection, attempting to steal the show. You're right. There are certain similarities. Except the so-called half-witted child managed to outwit the prosecution. It's only half a head of hair. Slander! My head is quite adequately dressed. In any case, all this talk of stabbing and withdrawing with multiple wounds, it makes not a jolt of difference. Why not? Engage your brain, young man. When the accused first plunged the deadly weapon into the victim, that was the fatal blow. And it was that moment, just as she withdrew the blade ready for her next strike, that the witnesses saw. The knife was already tainted with blood because the accused had already stabbed the victim. All you have just successfully shown in your little display is that the mustached author is prone to moments of extravagance. I'm in agreement with the prosecution. If the defendant was seen wielding a blade at all, that is sufficient grounds for her actions to be viewed with suspicion. But what if she was withdrawing the blade? Then we are back to where we started. Sorry? Consider this, young yokel boy. If the student girl is innocent as you claim, then why would she have pulled the blade from the victim, with the demon's cold-blooded composure, too? The prosecution demands an explanation, and it better be good. Why did Ray pull out the knife? Yes, going for the jugular. What does Father mean by that? Would the court hear your answer then, counsel? The truth is, I don't really know. But I have to come up with a plausible reason here, or we don't have a case. The reason why the defendant pulled the knife blade out of the victim's body was surely so she could...
Didn't they talk to each other before this a little bit? That's about what happened? We just figured this out, as we all know.
We don't have to say she stabbed her again. I don't think saving her life would be the option. Hide the knife? I think it was possible that she could hide the murder weapon.
Objection!
And yet the murder weapon was left there, thrust in the sand of the scene. Having pulled a knife from the victim, she couldn't find a place to hide it. That was her only option, perhaps? I think, counsel, that you were ill-advised with your answer initially. You were further ill-advised to pursue it. Okay, so that was completely fucking wrong.
She probably tried to save her,
Just because you're under pressure doesn't mean you can say the first thing that comes to your head. I'd like to revise my answer, Your Excellency. The reason why is so she could... I don't think the saving would work, though.
It wouldn't work. Did she know that?
According to the post-mortem report, the victim's death was not instant. That's correct. So she would have remained unconscious for a short while after sustaining the injury. Indeed, giving her time to take hold of this piece of evidence, it clearly indicates her killer. The point is, being a medical research student, Ababi-san was compelled to act when faced with the wounded victim. Instinctually, she pulled the blade out in an attempt to save Miss Brett's life. Did you hear that, Your Excellency? It would seem this is the best we can expect of this young yokel. Indeed. Is it just me, or does it suddenly feel much colder in here? Your Excellency, if I may. Speak, witness. I'd like another opportunity to testify, in respect to the slipshod assertion put forward by the yokel's defense counsel, I mean. Slipshod? An excellent idea, Inspector. Our young yokel hopeful has a modicum of knowledge when it comes to law, it seems. But in matters of medicine, he appears to possess not an iota of common sense. Very well, Inspector. I'll permit your request. I will testify again before the court on the subject of defense counsel's assertion. Yes, sir. I'll do so flawlessly.
Is that the one who's always beat up?
Yeah. So yeah, it's probably... It's one of those things, if she is a medical student, she would know not to pull the knife out. Because that would keep the blood inside your body. Pulling a blade from a wound without thinking could cause heavy bleeding. That's basic knowledge for any medical research assistant with an ounce of sense ought to know. In other words, there's no good reason why the defendant would try to pull the knife from the victim. Let's not forget that the young student did have a motive for killing the victim. The man the victim murdered 9 months ago, Dr. Wilson, was the defendant's highly respected mentor. Is what you just said true, Inspector? Could pulling a knife from a wound really cause the wound to heal heavily? Yes. Think of the weapon itself as a stopper in the wound that prevents excessive blood loss. Until a doctor is ready to provide proper treatment, that stopper shouldn't be removed. Oh, I see. This is why you yokels should stay on the farm. Even a quack from an obscure mountain village would have a better such basic knowledge. Anyone who's ever given someone a little poke with a knife and pulled it out again knows it. Oh, well, I've never stabbed anyone, you see, or pulled a blade out of a wound, so... Of course you haven't. I didn't bring you up in the world to behave like a bandit. Father, is it true, what they're telling me? Yes, it's basic remedial knowledge from medics. Ray would have been well aware of it. If she were to claim ignorance of such fundamentals, that would prove fatal in many ways. But then, why would Ray have done it? Would she have pulled out the knife in full knowledge that would cause be fatal for Miss Brett? I don't know. Ray never once mentioned anything about the knife to me. It seems almost impossible to believe, but could my friend actually have... Susato. Yes? Pull yourself together. We mustn't lose sight of why we're here. Counsel, it's time for your cross-examination. Yes, Your Excellency. However, I must warn you that if your cross-examination fails to identify any issues with the established facts, I'll be moving to my adjudication immediately afterwards. Believing in your client and fighting for their cause until the bitter end. I knew it would be hard, but I had no idea it would be this hard. Okay, so, the only thing I would probably say is you could argue she might have some stuff in her luggage they could use to pack the wound, which would stop the bleeding, and therefore that would maybe. We have to see how this plays out.
Hold it!
You say doing it without thinking could be a problem. Does that mean if you used due care and attention it would be alright? I wouldn't have thought this needed spelling out, really. But the blade is likely a stopper in the wound. Remove it, and a serious hemorrhage will occur. In other words, a medic would need to be present before any attempt was made to withdraw the blade. Doing it without thinking would be madness. You just can't do it. Oh, well, thank you for such a thorough explanation. You see, Counsel, when you act without thinking, the result is a bloodbath. Back to the witness testimony, please. Okay, so there's really nothing there. It's basic knowledge that any medical research assistant with an ounce of sense ought to know. In that case, there's an obvious explanation here. Which is... clearly, the defendant, Rei Mibabi, does not possess an ounce of sense. God damn it. What do you think about that, Professor Mikotoba? I'm not sure you should be labeling your best friend as lacking in common sense. I thought it would be better than labeling her as a murderer. I don't know, young people today. If that's friendship, I don't understand it. Careful, Counsel. Lack of common sense can be a very dangerous thing. Oh dear. That recoiled on me rather badly. That's life, I'm afraid. A lesson everyone must learn. Hopefully you can see now that this is really basic medical knowledge. Being involved in medical research, Bobby-san would certainly have been aware of it. In other words, there's no good reason why the defendant would have tried to pull the knife from the victim.
Hold it!
But the defendant had suddenly encountered somebody she knew lying on the ground bleeding to death. The sight could have been shocked her delicate sensibilities, causing her to remove the blade inadvertently. I really don't think inadvertent actions can explain this. The woman is a medical research student. I can't imagine she'd behave so irrationally. Oh, but irrational behavior is a woman's prerogative, isn't it? Jesus Christ! The hell is this defense? Oh dear, you have a lot to learn about women. Only a small-minded man could have such bigoted views. Oh dear, perhaps I'm letting my male persona take hold a little too much. Well, have I managed to convey the basics now? I should cover the medical side of the argument. I get the argument would be if she had something there to stuff the wound, you could theoretically say, as a medical student, that would be fine.
Yeah, you could have taken it from him.
Yeah, right? Let's not forget the young student did have a motive for killing the victim. Whatever the motive, it just isn't Mibari's-san's nature to do something so awful. But she had both the motive and opportunity. It's very hard to argue against. You don't know the defendant. And you, Counsel, do not appear to know the law. Yes, evidence is the only way to convince the court of your argument, not feelings. Say that to British court! All the fucking jurors were biased as fuck. With this fledgling to defender, I wouldn't say I'd pity the accused. So do I. Inspector, you will reiterate your point about the defendant's motive, please. Yes, Miss Britt was in many ways a sworn enemy of Mibabi-san. The man the victim murdered 9 months ago, Dr. Wilson, was the defendant's highly respected mentor. Well, yes, that's true. Dr. Wilson recognized Mibabi's talent and offered her a position of assistant despite her being a woman. She was extremely grateful to him. Yes, the Englishman appears to have been a very broad-minded individual. Rebels that had no time for outdated traditions. He met with opposition, of course, but he believed firmly in Mababe-san's abilities. Clearly the defendant was in the man's debt. It only serves to prove my point. This is hopeless. I can't find a single crack in this testimony anywhere. If Ray knew about withdrawing the knife from the wound would threaten Miss Brett's life further. I just can't think of any way to explain why she did it. Susato, it's at times like these when it is especially important to remember the fundamentals. Fundamentals? Evidence is what counts in the courtroom, isn't it? Of course, but I've been through the court record dozens of times already. I think perhaps you're forgetting something, though. You needn't take the evidence at face value. You can and must examine it in greater details, too. I realize this is your first time playing the role of lawyer in the courtroom, so with the reminding of the rudiments, you only need to ask. Examine the evidence in the court record. It's an idea, certainly. What should I do? Okay, I know what to do. Come to think of it, Kazama-san and Naruhodo are always turning evidence over and over in their hands. Yes, I need to examine things in greater detail with space. By the look in your eyes, I see it's coming back to you. Okay, well, the only thing... I doubt I can look at this. Oh, hello. Rakshas Engler returnees tell all. That is the interview about Suzuki-san, isn't it, Father? It looks as though it was quite an exchange. Yes, he became a little over-animated when he was talking about his time in England. The photograph managed to capture that moment in his hand karate chop on my neck. I do hope you weren't hurt. This is the newspaper from Suzuki-san. There seems to be an important article on the back page as well. Exclusive, deadly poison stolen from Yumi Medical Research Laboratory. From Yumi's medical research. Father, isn't that your lab? What the? Let me see that. The poison's been stolen. It's this morning's paper that Suzuki-san gave us. Are you saying you didn't know? As embarrassing as it is for the head of the laboratory, I didn't. I've not heard any such thing. Where on earth could the reporter have gleaned this information? Come to think of it, there was no article mentioning the story in our paper this morning, was there? It's highly toxic poison we've been working on in the strict confidence. Put Ray in charge of the project. Right? She was managing it? If what's written here is true, it means that she tried to hide the death from me. And moreover, the details were leaked somehow. I don't believe it. I need to read this article very carefully. Interesting. We take off the pin's lid. Now let's unscrew the barrel, shall we? This seems to be the little reservoir that holds the ink. Yes, you fill it by drawing ink from the bottle through the nib. Is something wrong, Father? There doesn't actually appear to be any ink in there, that's all. Yes, you're right. It's pretty much empty. Well, it could be on the verge of running out, I suppose. RM initials are very clearly engraved here. And the fact that Miss Brett was clinging to this pin in her dying moments is very clearly a message, too. Identify our killer, you mean? I don't think there could be any doubt that this is a key piece of evidence in this case. There's some sort of emblem here, look. But it isn't a Yumi University one. It belongs to some other organization, I suppose. A business of some kind. That would seem to imply that the pen doesn't in fact belong to Ray. Go through the court record again and have a thorough look at everything. You may just find a clue. Yes, I'll do it straight away. Holding a blade, so that's fine. In other words, Okay, that didn't work. Fuck. I gotta do this again. Jesus Christ. Okay, blah 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 blah. I know what to do. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Okay, let's try it again. Really? Wow, I'm already screwing up. Okay. Following a lecture at Yumi University by Suzuki Natsumi on the 11th of August, it's come to light that a very disturbing incident took place. A deadly poison being secreted developed in the university's forensic science laboratory was stolen. Even the smallest amount entering the body via the mouth or found via a wound from a poison-laced blade would prove fatal in minutes. Current methods cannot be detected. The newly developed chemical at the university would have to be consulted. Onset of symptoms occur in minutes, starting with impaired breathing and ending with acute contraction of the pupils prior to death. Such symptoms would be suggestive of this toxin. Apparently has an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids, which are rumored to have commissioned by the military. Oh, I can use this to... Okay. Hold up. Damn it. Fuck. I thought maybe we used a pen, but if we... Okay.
Objection!
That's what we object to. No, there is one possibility. One very good reason why the defendant might have decided to withdraw the blade from the victim's wound. What? Huh. The Yoko not only has poor grasp of the law, but is a very poor loser. Tell us then, what possibility do you think you could have identified? It's here, in this newspaper article. An article about a deadly poison have been stolen from a laboratory in the Imperial Yumi University. The victim perished from a stab wound. Poison has no relevance in this case. But, Security Ouchie, we will let the defense speak. But the newspaper article. The court cannot rely on this kind of hearsay these wretched publications carry. Counsel for the defense. I'm going to need some tangible basis for your claim. You will indicate to the court precisely which part of the newspaper article mentioned affirms your assertion. Your Excellency. Yes, of course. Thank you. Would have never done something to further endanger Miss Banks' life without just cause. The reason why the defendant pulled the knife from the victim's body is explained in the article where it says, the article reveals the following property about the poison in question. When the toxin enters the body on a knife laced with poison, it rapidly absorbs and causes death within minutes. Are you suggesting that the knife used to attack Miss Brett was laced with this very poison? It would explain why the defendant, Mibabi-san, would have withdrawn the blade as soon as possible. Yes, the truth is, it was an attempt to stop the poison from entering the victim's body.
Objection!
This is complete and utter nonsense. Not at all. The defense withdrew the knife blade from the victim's body not to accelerate the woman's demise, but to save her life. The prosecution cannot deny the possibility. Have you not read the post-mortem report? The cause of death was hemorrhage. The word poison appears nowhere in the document. Well, that's because by acting quickly to remove the blade, the defendant prevented the poison from taking hold. Oh, please, this is clearly desperation. The weasel's last breaking of wind. Poison has nothing whatsoever to do with this case, as I believe the defense is well aware. We have no proof that the information in this wretched newspaper article is at all reliable anyway. In this situation, what the student should have done is wait for medical assistance to arrive, but instead you claim she suspected poisoning and took the potential lethal decision to remove the blade. She must have had a strong reason for her suspicions then, or the argument makes no sense. Exactly. Well put, Inspector. On what grounds did she do it, yokel? Why did Ray suspect the stolen poison was involved? If you want grounds, I'll give you grounds. What? You can't possibly. From your expression, counsel, it would appear those are not empty words. But naturally, as you stand in this courtroom as a lawyer, you must be aware that words alone, empty or not, are of no value in the modern justice system. The court demands evidence. Yes, Your Excellency, I'm well aware of that. I've seen it many times, from my place at his side in the Old Bailey. In that case, counsel, would you present proof to the court now? What evidence demonstrates a clear link between the case and the poisoned newspaper article? It was here, right? Something about extreme moisis, pupil constriction was observed in the victim of both eyes.
Take that!
I would ask the court to refer to the notes section of the post-mortem report, which reads, extreme meiosis, pupil constriction was observed in the victim. Clearly, being a yokel with no knowledge of forensic science, I have no idea, so please do tell me. Presumably, the fact that this condition of the victim was noted in the post-mortem report means that it's an unusual symptom of death. Well, under normal circumstances, the pupils dilate when someone dies. If there was an extreme constriction instead, that most certainly unusual, yes. What are you doing, you yokel detective? In the newspaper article, there's the following information about the stolen poison. Onset of symptoms occurs in minutes, ending with acute constriction of the pupils prior to death. What? If the defendant, upon seeing the victim stabbed in the back, happened to notice that the pupils of Miss Brett's eyes had constricted severely. Yes, as a medical research assistant, she would have suspected poison immediately, without doubt. Prosecutor Ouchie, I think you'll agree, this is very compelling evidence. You yokel student and yokel professor. I believe the defense has expertly demonstrated a credible reason for the defendant's actions. No. Eugene Mikotoba. Yes, Your Excellency. I believe you are the best placed here to confirm or deny the veracity of the defense counsel's argument. You will tell the court the truth about the details reported in this newspaper, please. It pains me to have to admit it, but I'm afraid I don't know. You don't know? The toxin was kept locked and key in my laboratory, certainly, but I was unaware of any theft. You mean to tell the court that the reports of this death were unfounded? No, Your Excellency. Without returning to the laboratory to investigate myself, I couldn't say. Listen to the bumbling academic. Unaware of the theft of secret states research from his own workplace until he reads it in the newspaper. I take full responsibility for the incompetence of my supervision. Pitiful situation for a university professor. You should have more control over your students, rather than allowing them off on killing sprees. That's totally unfounded. None of this is Professor Mikotoba's fault. It's all my fault. Ray? And Bobby-san, you stand accused here. Outbursts like this will not be tolerated. But it was me. I was the one who noticed that the poison we were developing had been stolen that day. What? So you knew? I'd been placed in charge of overseeing the project. It was on a day that the professor and Soga-sen were interviewing together for the newspaper. That's when I noticed that some of the poison was missing. Just a tiny amount it was. Why didn't you let me know immediately? I was scared. The whole project was supposed to be confidential, but some of the toxin had already somehow been taken. So, I decided I'll try to get it back before anyone else had found out. Because I had a very good idea who the thief was. The thief? You don't mean... Yes, of course. It was a dainty Englishwoman. Miss Giselle Brett? That's why I decided to join the little group of people going to the seaside. Inside the beach hut, I confronted Miss Brett. But she just sat on the stool at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly at me as if she knew she was untouchable. I know it was you who stole the poison. Well now, whatever do you mean? And then, she suddenly got to her feet, before falling to her knees in front of me and then collapsing on the floor. That's when I saw the knife in her back. I couldn't understand what had just happened. And then, a moment later, I was seized with fear. The pupils of her eyes they shrunk to tiny pinpoints. I believe it. In other words, you realized that the victim was suffering from the effects of the stolen poison. My mind started racing. I hadn't seen anything past Miss Brett's lips whilst I'd been with her, which left only one possible way for the poison to have entered her body. On the blade of the knife in her back. And then the train of thought that would spurred you to withdraw the blade. Yes, the amount that had entered her bloodstream was small enough. She might still have a chance. That's what I had hoped. Really, I'm so sorry for staying silent all this time.
I think they should have talked about this before they went to the court. A little bit. Like, quick conversations instead of each other ogling each other.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be twists and turns if all the secrets were revealed at the start.
All the secrets as in like just the generic testimony from the defendant about what happened.
Your attempt to hide the truth about what happened is not something that can be overlooked. However, I have duly noted the courage of which you've confessed in the end. Thank you, Your Excellency. It's barely perceptible, but I do think the balance has shifted a little here in the courtroom now.
Objection!
Your Excellency, do not be deceived. The victim just collapsed before your eyes, you said. Well, Mbabi-san, if that's the case, perhaps you could explain how Miss Brett came to be stabbed. Well, you have no answer because the simple truth is that you stabbed the victim motivated by revenge.
Objection!
But you have no conclusive evidence to prove that assertion, do you? Oh, I have evidence, and it's very much conclusive. What's the prosecution counsel up to now? It's brief, but he hesitated for a moment there. I'm almost sure of it. You'll produce the aforementioned evidence at once, Prosecutor Ouchi. Perhaps some praise is due, young yokel student. What? I had imagined there would be no need for me to submit this evidence. But you've brought this on yourself. What the? Can a more damning shot exist? The cruelty in the air on that beach is almost palpable. This evidence, more than any other, reveals the true extent to the accused murderer's nature, for it shows the precise moment when Mbabi-san plunged her dagger into the victim's back. No, that's not true. I don't believe it. Order. Counsel for the defense. Was it you who was responsible for that shrill scream that pierced my courtroom? Perhaps his voice is yet to break. These yokels are slow in the mind and slow to mature. I'll show you who's slow to mature. Careful now. Zazato is starting to show her face here. It is often said that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Here we have an ample proof. The council will accept this extremely cogent photographic print as evidence. I can't believe he had a photograph like that up his sleeve the entire time. It's such a stark image, I'm genuinely lost for words. Wait a minute, I don't understand. How did you... I mean, who took that photograph? Okay. That's of no importance here. Stop trying to divert attention.
Objection!
That's an absurd thing to say. It's crucially important. Whoever took this photographic print was a witness to Miss Brett's death. The court must be allowed to hear that person's testimony. I will uphold the defense's demand. The prosecution reveal the identity of the person responsible for taking this photograph at once. Well, I'm afraid I can't do that. Pardon? You see, the print arrived at the Imperial Police Bureau headquarters by express post yesterday. But there was nothing to indicate the center's name or address. The provenance of the print is unknown. Goodness. Are we to understand, then, the Council, in full knowledge of the fact that this photograph has the murkiest of origins, you will nevertheless believe it fit for submission to the evidence in the Supreme Court? When you first produced that print before, I noticed that you hesitated for a brief moment. Perhaps you knew it was completely reliable evidence, didn't you? Silence, you yokel student and babbling professor. What matters is the blatant truth that this print so eloquently expresses. The defendant has already admitted to pulling the blade from the wound. Clearly, this isn't the moment the knife was plunged into the victim's back, but the moment it was withdrawn? Don't waste the court's time with your rabbling. Indeed, without knowledge of who produced this print, we have no means of verifying the claim. And the scene as captures is without doubt the most compelling evidence presented to the court. The defense is unable to shred any evidence further light on the matter. I believe the conclusion is clear. No, Mrs. Otto, this is the time for you to fight. What you've established so far is true, and there can be no doubt. This photograph shows the moment Ray withdrew the blade from the victim. Yes, we just need to prove that somehow. You have plenty of time to rule your defeat in a slow train back to the Providences, and to rule the day you came against this Takasuchi Aochi in the court of law. If I can't determine who took this photograph, then the trial is going to come to an end. There must be a clue somewhere. There must be some way of working out who took it. Well, Counsel? Your Excellency? The burning question who took the photograph, and the truth is... Oh, yeah. We can figure that out. That should be obvious. I have the answer. This isn't about whether I can or can't come up with the answer now. I simply have to. The identity of the person who took the dramatic photographic print is, I assure you, something the defense can and will reveal. What? No, you can't possibly. But as you boldly claim that you can, please, do enlighten us. Unfortunately, I'm unable to present the name. How utterly underwhelming. Do you really believe you could? However, I'm able to present evidence. The defense has a piece of evidence that reveals the important details about the photographer's identity. What? Very well then, Counsel. Present your proof to the court. What piece of evidence you claim reveals something about the identity of the mysterious photograph? This, right?
Take that!
What is that? The newspaper again. Ranxious Englander returnees tell all. It's not the headline that's relevant here, Your Excellency. It's a photograph. If you look closely, you'll notice that there are some white lines on the right-hand side. Yes, indeed. They've already caught my eye as it happens. What of it? A shadow of some kind, presumably, from the branches of a tree or the like. There are no trees growing inside my laboratory at the university, I can assure you. Now, if you look closely at the photograph... Good gracious. Yes, exactly the same pattern of lines is present on the photograph, too. Well, that tells us nothing. Yes, it's a shadow of some kind, definitely, from the branches of a tree. There won't be any trees growing inside a hut at the beach, Council. Quite remarkable about it is that the two patterns are almost identical. How could such an extraordinary similarity have transpired? You curious matching pattern that appears on both photographic prints is a result of a camera defect. Obviously, it must be due to the problem with the camera used to take photographs. With the photographic device? Yes. We can confidently say the camera's lens must be scratched. The scratched lens caused unwanted lines to appear on every print taken with the device. In short, the two photographs under consideration here were taken with the same camera. But there must be hundreds of camera devices here in the capital. It'd be utterly impossible to identify the owner of this particular one. I think you're forgetting, Prosecutor Ouchie, that one of the photographs featured in a newspaper article. A newspaper? That's right. The author of that article is the mysterious witness to this crime. What? I'm not even sure how you would say that. I see why you're called a Ranch's England returnee. What are you yelling about? You've already testified. It's... Mini memo? I tell you, mini memo. Memo. Suzuki-san? What was that? Did you say mini memo? Ever since I returned to Japan, a reporter from the Shu News has been hounding me, following my every move. A reporter by the name of Reitan God damn it, I can't say this name.
He just said it word for word for you. He spelled it out with a dance.
Reitan Memo. He's hounding me from dusk till dawn. Now that he mentions it. They secretly spy, snapshots, scribble stories, and scupper my privacy. That same reporter be... a camera to the left of him, a notebook to the right. There I am, stuck in the middle with... Written mini memo. You're saying that this picture was taken by mini memo. It's such a weird fucking name to say. My lord, your excellency, Esquire. Officer, find this newspaper reporter at once and bring him to my courtroom. We will adjourn for a short recess in the meantime. Yes, your excellency. As you say, your excellency. And one more thing. I want this knife, the murder weapon, examined for traces of poison. You solicit the assistance of the Imperial University's medical department for this task, understood? So sorry, Susato. Should have told you about the toxin. Right? You have a strong sense of responsibility, I know. So you decided to shoulder the burden alone. That's not it at all. I was just scared of my failure coming to light, that's all. I have to retrieve the substance from the Englishwoman before anyone found out. Before the trial started, do you remember what you said, Susato? That you had no doubt in my mind about the innocence? Would you stand by me to the last? I remember. And yet I didn't deserve your trust in me. I hid important details from you, Susato. I completely betrayed your faith in me. Hit me, Susato. I deserve it. No, in fact, throw me to the floor. No, that's too good for me as well. Drag me through the city streets. I'm no better, you know. Oh? Even through my heart, I knew that you'd pulled the knife blade from Miss Brett's back. there was still just a brief moment when, in my mind, I doubted you. Susato, I'm sorry. I stood here and promised you I'd stand by you and always be by your side. I betrayed your faith in me, too. And as such, I failed you as a lawyer. Stop.
You're cute.
I think this situation has taught both of you a valuable lesson. Placing your unbridled faith in another is no easy task. His father. In fact, this certainly struck home. Which is why I can see more clearly now. So, Ray? Yes? Did you find it in your heart to forgive me? Oh, Susato. You know you'll always be a gallant, dashing lawyer in my eyes now. Oh, Ray. I was so scared, you know, when it happened. I didn't know what was going on. The Englishwoman was sitting at the back of the hut, listening to what I was saying. I know it was you who stole the poison. Well now, whatever do you mean? And then, a moment later, she suddenly got to her feet, before collapsing on the floor in front of me, with a knife in her back. It all happened right before my eyes. And you were the only people in the hut at the time. That's right, just Miss Brett and myself. There was no one else. So I don't understand how she could possibly have been stabbed like that.
See, there's this couple having
A great mystery indeed. I still can't believe it happened. That's why I couldn't bring myself to speak up. It'll be alright. However, it happened. And whatever really went on by that sea that day, I promise you, I'm going to prove everything you saw is true. Spoken like a true Mikotoba. Now, I think we should discuss what's coming up in the trial, don't you? We don't have much time. We must make sure our facts are in order. Yes, I suspect the poison is going to come under close scrutiny in the upcoming proceedings. Police should hopefully have identified it on the blade by now. The trouble is, it's a completely new laboratory-synthesized blend of alkaloids. The police won't have any way of testing for it. Oh, I see. Yes. Without this chemical reagent, it's impossible to detect the toxin. Chemical reagent? I sent a colleague of mine off with some earlier to deliver to the police headquarters. I think perhaps you should find some as well, though, just in case. Special indicator solution for the new poison under development by my father's team. It's been created by a very strict secrecy and exists only in my father's laboratory. What's the matter, Susato? You're suddenly very quiet. In this newspaper article, exclusive, deadly poison stolen from Yumi Medical Research Laboratory. I'm wondering how the information got out, given that it was government secret. It was all the Englishwoman's doing. It was when the professor and Suzuki-san were being interviewed at the laboratory. The so-called English lady swanned in and without any compunction said to Professor Mikotoba, "Oh, Professor, surely your guest would love to hear about your work on that substance here." Puts me in a very awkward position, to be frank. So Suzuki-san's curiosity had been piqued, so I had little choice but to give him a cursory introduction. So then, Suzuki-san knew about the poison? Yes, and it's highly likely that the reporter who was writing up the story about us would have caught the glimpse of the toxin too. This memo-san. By the way, did that reporter join you all when you went to the beach? Oh, no, I don't remember the reporter being there. Indeed, he shouldn't have been. I very much doubt anyone would have wanted him to be there. Oh, a known criminal had been given permission by the authorities to bathe by the seaside. Suzuki-san pointed out that inviting a reporter might be problematic, so the man was sent back to his office. But he obviously didn't go back. He secretly followed the party to the beach and took this very candid photograph. He presumably posted it anonymously to the police. Yes, that must be what happened. Counsel, we've just heard that the new witness is ready to testify. The trial is about to resume. Please proceed to the courtroom at once. It's time to steel ourselves once again, then. Defense attorney, Ryotaro Naruhodo? Yes. Ray has put her faith in me now and told me everything, so I can't let her down. I have to prove that what she's telling the court is true. I have to prove that what really happened that day. hereby call this court to order as we can reconvene to continue the trial of Ray Bambi? Prosecutor Ouchie, have you summoned the new witness? Before I address that question, Your Excellency, I have some very important news to share. Oh? What news? And why does he look so happy about it? During the recess, with the collaboration of Professor Mikotoba's laboratory at Thema University, the police re-examined the knife that was used to end Miss Giselle Brett's life. Excellent. I admire your rapid handling of the matter. Oh, too kind, Your Excellency. Too kind. I was merely carrying out your instructions, of course. I had the reagent delivered to the police headquarters by rickshaw, so it would be there in good time. And judging by the man's swagger, I fear we might need to brace ourselves for the inevitable. And counsel, what were the results? This dagger, which was so cruelly used to end the life of the victim, had no trace of poison anywhere along its blade. What? Are you sure about that? Let's stake the reputation of the police on it. Armed with the reagent, the test is extremely simple. They couldn't have made a mistake. In short, the accused's feeble excuse earlier has been utterly destroyed. Now, the prosecution is ready to call the new witness. Ah, the newspaper reporter who managed to capture the photograph of the crucial moment. Good. Very well, officer. Bring in the new witness. No trace of poison in the knife. But if that really is the case, how could the toxin have entered the victim's body? Witness, please state your name and occupation for the court. Written mini memo of the Shiro News. It's what people like to call a journal. What's a journal, Father? You know? It's simply a contraction of journalist. I'm there with the news breaks, putting pen to paper to catch the scoops so they're in print the next morning. They don't call me the hero of the Herald for nothing. A nice guy of news. Oh, so, it was you who took this photograph, was it? Well, what have we here? I'm sorry? Ooh, brace yourself, people. Mini memos, senses a scoop in the offing. Female student up to foul play, defended by curiously handsome young lawyer in Supreme Court. The readers will lap this up. Set it above the fold at the 72 in... Okay. We'll set it above the fold at 72 point in 5-leg format in the morning edition. Huh? Right then. Let's start with your name. It's Ryotaro Naruhodo. Next. What made you want to become a lawyer? Well, I wanted to reform our country's legal system, I suppose. Ryotaro has suddenly become very ambitious, I see. I just borrowed Kazuma's son's stream for a while. By the way, my name is Takisuchi Ouchi. It's Takisuchi Ouchi. The so-called dark horse of the Supreme Court. My objections strike fear in every defense lawyer's heart. No, the readers won't buy that. Right? Witness. Yes? What the court demands to know is whether or not you were responsible for the taking of this picture. It was delivered anonymously to the Imperial Police Bureau only yesterday. Yeah, it wouldn't be a journal if I didn't click quick when the presented with a scoop like that now, would I? Sometimes stories call out to me, sometimes I have to chase them down, but either way you gotta be fast. Fast legs to run with and fast hand to write with. It's no good if you don't note it down, I always say. That's what I call my mini-memoisms. Mini-memoism? Yes, I remember your face. I met the day when you were interviewing myself and Suzuki-san. Yes, right. That was me. Mini memo again. But you were supposed to be going back to Shio news offices after we met. But the scoop is, I didn't, because that Englishwoman's words have piqued my journalistic interest. Spread's words? A criminal left to do as she pleases just because she happens to be a British citizen. It's horse dung. This country's judiciary is rotten to its core. The Supreme Court's rulings aren't worth the paper they're written on. police are just imperial pawns. Stay your tongue, young man. There are complex political issues at play. Anyway, I quickly jotted down those words she said in my mini memo pad. Nope. Jesus fucking Christ. Mimi memo pad. Jeez. Are you ready? I'll read it out. It all goes here. Right, here goes. I should like to go with everyone to see our country's coast. A serious criminal goes to, going on some junket. The people need to know about this. That's why I decided to sneak up after them. To get the woman's story so I can hammer her in the press. Do you mean to say that you did indeed witness it firsthand? The grim scene portrayed in this photograph. Yes, I saw it with my own journal eyes, from start to finish. The lit viewfinder of this trusty camera. Thank you, Mini Memo-san. You now give formal testimony before the court. You will state exactly what it is that you witnessed to the events surrounding Miss Brett's death. The beach hut was made of shoddy old reed screens, so there was plenty of gaps I could see through. The Englishwoman was sitting on a stool when the student girl came in and started arguing with her. Seconds later, the girl pulled out a knife, throwing the Englishwoman to the floor and stabbed her in the back. My smoldering journal spirit burst into flames. Quick as a flash, I whipped out my camera ready to click. I pulled apart the rough weave of one of the screens and poked the lens for the perfect shot. Reed screens, you say? Right. You can see them in clearly enough this great shot I snapped. The hut's walls are just screens made of coarsely woven reeds. Yes, it allows the breeze to pass through and breaks some relief from the summer heat. It was that breeze for me to poke my camera through and see the whole thing hotting up. Ignoring for the time being the appalling invasion of privacy involved, did you witness everything that happened from the moment the defendant entered the hut? Yes, I saw it. I saw the whole thing from start to finish. And you say you took the photograph through a gap in one of the screens. Luckily for me, they were pretty shoddily woven. I pulled the reeds apart and thrust the lens of my camera through the gap. Would I get away with it? Would I be seen? It was a gamble of a lifetime. Tenacity of purpose is considered admirable in the journalist, I suppose. Run a risk one day, run a scoop the next. That's mini memoism in a nutshell. Alas, it would appear we have a genuine witness to this wicked crime. The evidence and the testimony are extremely compelling. I believe we may be close to a verdict. No. Wonderful news, Your Excellency. Wonderful. Nevertheless, it cannot be denied. This testimony begs one very large question. What question? Exclusive news, a startling photograph, all the makings of an exceptional story for the reporter. Why then was the story never published? Oh, that's right. It seems clear to me that there are circumstances at play here that are yet to be understood. More pathetic excuses. Very well then, counsel. Proceed with your cross-examination. Yes, Your Excellency. There's more to this report than meets the eye. He's keeping something about this case very close to his chest. This is one of those moments where I have to press everything. The beach hut was made of shoddy old reed screens with plenty of gaps I could see through.
Hold it!
What made you want to see what was happening inside the beach hut in the first place? Call it journal instinct. Couldn't think of a better reason. Oh, I don't know. Perhaps because as well as being a proven criminal, the person inside was a young woman? I see where you're going with this. Brace yourselves, people. He's painting the journal as a voyeur. It's hardly slander, sir. You had a camera and you were taking pictures without the woman's knowledge. Nope. You got it all wrong, little student boy. Sorry? To my mind, all that was inside the hut was a scoop. Nothing more, nothing less. Scoops know no gender. Man or woman, it's all news. It's not even mini-menoism, it's basic journalism. And the courtroom was as indiscriminate. Right, so if that's all buttoned up, can we move on? Tell the court then, witness. What sight befell your eyes when you looked inside the hut? A sight that vindicated my journal instinct, that's what. When I pulled back the reeds, I could see it all as clear as day. The Englishwoman was sitting on the stool when the student came in and started arguing with her.
Hold it!
So you actually saw Mimibani-san entering the hut? Yep, and she was raging like my journal spirit. In the argument you mentioned, what was that about exactly? You stole it. I didn't steal it. That kind of thing. Talking about the poison, I suppose. The student girl walked right up to the Englishwoman and really started laying into her. I mean, if she laid on her anymore, there would have been eggs. The man should have been an author. His descriptive talents are wasted on journalism. But the student's rantings fell on deaf ears, like a Japanese person listening to English for the first time. You really ought to work on his similes first, though, to be honest. Anyway, the point is, that woman in the dock was mightily angry. And her temper finally got the better of her, it seems. Dear me. Which was the climactic moment I caught on film. Seconds later, the girl pulled out a knife, throwing the Englishwoman to the floor as she stabbed her in the back. I feel like that statement's a little weird. Because there would be struggle in the stand, right? I don't know if I have enough to actually say that.
Hold it!
Do you swear before this court that you actually saw the precise moment the stabbing took place? The precise moment? I didn't see just that. I saw the whole hellish scene play out, from start to finish. I have a simple plan of the beach hut. Perhaps you could use it to explain to the court exactly what you witnessed. Right you are. It's all right here on my mini memo pad.
Where did they find his pen?
Hmm?
His pen?
I don't think they said.
Oh.
We don't know that's his pen yet. Even though it clearly has the emblem on his shoulder.
Initials.
It has his initials and it has his fucking little emblem on it that he's got wearing on his arm. I wonder whose pen it could be.
Oh, gee.
When I first peered into the hut, I'm sure that the Englishwoman was on the stool in the back of the hut here. Yes, the accused's own testimony confirmed that. She just sat at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly, is what I noted here. It's my turn to testify now. Try not to interrupt. Then, the next moment, as I was watching, the evil student entered the hut. For a while, the pair of them ended up in the middle of the hut, arguing ferociously. The Englishwoman went for the student. The girl dodged out of the way. And in a flash, plunged the heart in the adversary's back as the two passed each other. What you describe as a grim crime indeed. Never sugarcoat the truth. That's what mini-memoism says. The beachhead plan has been entered into the court record. By the way, mini-memo-son, whilst you were watching that terrible scene unfold before your eyes through the gap in the screen, did it not occur to you to try to prevent the tragedy, rather than capture it on film? Journalists have to be observers. We cannot get involved. That's our raison d'etre? So you didn't converse with Miss Brett at all? Obviously not. An observer always remains on the outside looking in. And that's something to be proud of, is it? Your Excellency, if I may. Yes, Professor? I think the witness's last expertly phrased statement is to perhaps be added to his formal testimony. Father, what are you? I will grant the defense's request. Memo-san, you will submit your formal testimony with the aforementioned statement. Well, nihilism is the foundation of many menoism. I gladly prove that my words aren't meaningless. I never once set foot in a hut nor spoke with the Englishwoman. I was there only as an observer. Okay, I think this is where we present the pen.
Objection!
Memo-san, until now I had a firm belief. The newspapers are in the business of uncovering and publishing the truth. You're spot on there. The press don't lie, which is why I'm proud to wear the emblem of the Shio News on my arm. In a way, that's more mini-memoism. Sadly, though, it seems that journalists who write for those papers don't always share the same passion for the truth. What What are you suggesting with these recriminatory words, Counsel? Memo-san, do you recognize this fountain pen? This pen was found at the scene of Miss Brett's death. In fact, the murder victim was gripping it in her hand as she died. What are you? If you look at the barrel of the pen, you'll notice that its owner's initials are engraved there. R.M. Yes, thank you for bringing that up, Counsel. The initials of the accused, Ray Mamabi. Is it a coincidence, I wonder? That your initials are also RM. No. Written mini memo, RM. That's horse dung. Can't you see? One of the essential tenets of mini memoism is being a pencil user. And yet, as the court were clearly able to see, on your right hand, there's a very obviously blue ink stain. It appeared that you must have been rather carelessly left it somewhere recently. Your favorite fountain pen, that is. Horsey horse dung. Is that the case? Before she died, you met with Giselle Brett on that beach hut. Why should we listen to this absurd nonsense? It's nothing but another excuse. Exactly. Shoyan News would stand behind me all the way. Deny everything. There must be as many people with the initials RM as there are stars in the night sky. The defense has neither the time nor the inclination to count every star in the sky. And there is no need, anyway, because this pen is no more to tell. Yes, there is another clue. A clue that undeniably proves who the owner really is. In that case, Counsel, the defense will now show the court where his alleged clue lies. Of course, Your Excellency. The clue on this fountain pen that clearly revealed its owner's identity is... As well as the initials, there is also an emblem on this fountain pen. An emblem that you will, of course, recognize, Mini Memo-san. Goodness me. It's the emblem of the Shoya News. In other words, the owner of this pen is an employee of the Shoya News, whose initials are RM. Suddenly the stars in the night sky don't seem so numerous, do they? Well, Mini Memo-san, how do you respond? No! Order! Order! Explain yourself, witness. So, this is how the mighty Supreme Court works, is it? Using coercive tactics to have well-meaning citizens reveal harmless secrets. I've used nothing more but honest tactics. Alright then, fine. I'll try to hide it anymore. Yes, not long before the grim tragedy unfolded, I, a Shuya News reporter on behalf of the public, conducted an interview with the Englishwoman. Interview? You never mentioned this before. When exactly was this? As I said, it was just before the evil little student girl showed her face in the hut. It couldn't have lasted more than 2 or 3 minutes, that's all. It was just a brief exchange. But it came to nothing. As we many memoisms say, the people don't pay their dues for unworthy news. However insignificant you deem it to be, this court cannot overlook the meeting between yourself and the victim. You will testify now. What the fuck is this music? Good lord. You now testify under a new oath about the precise nature of the meeting when it transpired. Got it. Yes, alright, but... on one condition. Condition? In all good conscience, I couldn't speak out alone about this. I need to call back the earlier witness, Suzuki Natsumi-san. Suzuki-san? Ah, yes. According to my notes here, that man has a secret of his own. And brace yourself. It's not a harmless one. It's big. What? Many minimalisms state that one man's secret is another man's news front page story. Very well. I'll grant the witness's request in this instance. Officer, summon the earlier witness back to the stand. Suzuki-san's hiding something? I asked the Englishwoman for an interview, but she declined, so I left the hut without making a fuss. Then, watching secretly from outside, I saw the woman being stabbed and other witnesses come running. The detective realized that the victim had a pulse. He ran to fetch help. That's when this writer man here asked the woman this very significant question. But he didn't say anything about his testimony, which is why many Menoism demands to reveal it now. You mean to say the victim regained consciousness? When did you decide to ask her a question? That's, true, yes. He did. And that's not all. The woman gave him a very definitive answer. The answer was that incriminates the accused. This is preposterous. Why am I only hearing about this now? Why didn't you mention this before, you yokel hack? It wasn't even a conversation. Yes, I did pose the writhing Englishwoman Rose a question, I don't deny it. But she can no longer speak. She's barely conscious, even. Counsel for the defense, I expect a thorough cross-examination to be conducted here. The court must know and will know the truth. Absolutely, Your Excellency. The reporter is claiming the Miss Brett implicated Ray somehow. What on earth could have happened in that hut? I asked the Englishwoman for an interview, but she declined, so I left the hut without making a fuss. You asked her for an interview, you say? Well, of course I did. I wanted to ask her about the incident she was involved in at the end of the last year. The case in which Dr. John H. Wilson lost his life. That's not the way I phrased it. Many memoisms called for straight talking. Why did you murder Dr. Wilson? Is what I put it to her. Yes, that sort of talk is as straight as a ruler. Ask every question as if you're asking for a menu in the restaurant, I say. The best way. A veteran at the paper taught me that. And how did Miss Brett answer? With one simple phrase. Mystery is a woman's charm. Phew, that told me. So I waltzed right out of there. Really, something about that doesn't quite seem to fit together. Leave every room as if you're waltzing into the dance hall, I say. It's the best way. A veteran at the paper taught me that. Then, watching secretly from outside, I saw a woman being stabbed and the other witnesses come running. It was very persistent of you, considering that Miss Brett had just turned you away. Persistent wins the prize. Any minute... Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Let them think you've left, and just when you lower their guard, that's when you swoop in for the scoop. And the fruits of your labor are all too apparent in this telling photograph. Though I'm sure the young yokel student would rather not be reminded of this damning evidence. Actually, it's thanks to that photograph that we managed to identify this witness. And now that you've found me, I'll tell you whatever you want to know. Got nothing to hide. I'm sure. Please, do go ahead, witness. The court is eager to hear what you have to say. Try and stop me. There's a story to tell here, and I'm going to tell it. I'm probably going to actually end it there. I've been going for like 2 hours. I need to give my throat a little bit of a break. We'll carry this off at another time.